October Red Boxing here with Ben. Look at that. Talk to me about the excitement then. Ben, it's always good to have you back as well. And thank you, because you could have walked off, but you said, nah, I'll do her in the nicest possible way, of course.
No, I'm just excited to. It feels like a new season. You know, when you're just excited to get going again. Obviously, had a couple of shows over the summer in Bournemouth and Albania, and I'd been out in Saudi. But this feels like the start of a real year for us. So yeah, I'm just excited. We've got a massive few weeks coming up.
What I will say is I absolutely love the Bournemouth card. You picked, I don't know how you did it with the British weather, but you picked the best time to be down there on the beach. Had a lot of positive feedback about that, something that hasn't been done before. Is it something that you'll definitely do again?
I think what we're committed to is bringing boxing to places where it's not been. Obviously, a lot of promoters go in here, there, and everywhere, and there are always temptations and paychecks and this and that. But British boxing is important, and it's important to create stars. It's important to keep the sport healthy. And Bournemouth was a great place to go. An unbelievable week. But we're going to all sorts of places. We've got Leeds coming up in our schedule this year. We've got Belfast, back in Scotland at some point. Great to be in Liverpool, Newcastle. I think that's part of what we want to do. I think that's part of how we think we can grow local superstars, the traditional way on Sky, and that's what we're focused on. But yeah, Bournemouth was a great week, wasn't it?
It definitely was, and it's the first time my skin peeled. That never happens. So that's telling you how hot it was, because I had sunburn.
Hot today on that pitch. You know. Go on.
It was. But anyway, let's talk about this weekend, this card. And what I will say as another thing as well is the way that you show Tasha that respect, the fact that it's almost like, I always say this with promoters, they do seem to have their favourites, they love their fighters, like, you know, it's a business. But with you, what is it about Tasha? What is it about her that she sort of like shines like a favourite of yours?
I don't want to go overboard, but just everything she's been through, like, you know, she came into boxing when there was no money in boxing and no opportunities in boxing, and she probably wasn't getting paid absolutely cool when she started. And she's been unlucky, and she, at 2012, she came in just at the same time as Katie Taylor, and that was always the golden girl. And she lost in the quarterfinal in the Olympics, and then I think she was injured for the Commonwealths, and then she became a mother, and then came back into the sport after that, and then had decisions with Terry Harper, and she obviously lost to Katie a points decision, and she just never seemed to get, you know, you saw a lot of women becoming world champions, and she was an elite woman and an elite boxer, and she never got her chances, and she kept going. I think she's an amazing person. Everyone that knows her, she's great in the Northwest, in the community and everything. She's a real role model. So just to be able to have such a good end to her career, and to be able to get paid the money that she deserves, and be able to give her the opportunities, and for her to become world champion, and for her to now get on Sky, and we're obviously part of the presenting team now, it's special when that happens, especially to someone that deserves it.
Somebody that I spoke to her not long before I spoke to you, and I said there's plenty of times when she could have probably said, you know what, I'm going to give up. I'm not getting the credit I deserve. Sort of like she was back shelved, but she still carried on. And it's having that mindset to carry on. And the fact is, she'll be influencing other people, because we know how tough it is. Some of these fighters, like the ones that come from the small hall shows, they have a lot of headache. It's tough out there. So when we talk about boxing, we talk about creating opportunities, which is what you've mentioned, creating opportunities for the British fighters going to, you know, all corners of the UK. What does that mean to boxer?
That is why the company exists. That's what gives us inspiration. When you're working with fighters, and why I like working with Tasha, and even Dan Aziz is on this card as well, you never feel sorry for yourself. You can work as hard as you can, but you always look to your right, you look to your left, you look at who you're representing. No, they've had it a lot tougher than you have, and it's a lot harder for them, and that's why we love this sport. We think they're the greatest athletes on the planet. I think boxers, or anyone that does martial arts and combat sports, it's a real test of character and everything, and not just in the ring, but outside with opportunities that don't come and things like that. So yeah, it's our identity. That's why we wanted to start in the sport. We wanted to be transparent. We wanted to make sure there's constant opportunities and do whatever we can for the fighters that we want to be associated with. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do.
We talk about that association then, and the fact that boxers sort of like making Britain the home of fighting, because we're getting a lot of fights, like you said. Ben was out in Saudi. It seems as if a lot of fights now are going out to the Middle East. They're going over to that side of the world. Is that sort of like creating a vacuum then, in one sense of a word? Because then it creates opportunities for you to possibly, I don't know, jump on the UK market, if you're looking at it from like a competitive sales marketing point of view.
I think anyone will struggle to compete in the UK with Sky for a British sports fan, for a British market. So of course that's going to be our focus. But also for the sport itself, there is no sport without the development. The reason why Britain is in such a strong position globally is because it's built superstars. It's built superstars consistently. It's sold arenas. They've become ticket sellers. They've become local heroes. That's what boxing is in this country, and that our focus is in boxing, and yet in Britain, and yet obviously there's lucrative opportunities everywhere. We just came back from Albania. That was not because of any government or anything like that. That was because that was Florian Stream, and so there's opportunities sometimes when you have to take it. But for us, Britain's our focus. Sky are very, very committed to British boxing. That is their focus. That's what they've always been committed to. And that's what we'll continue to do. And I think, yes, there's a competitive advantage to it because perhaps we have maybe started to develop the strongest stable in the UK, I would say, the strongest stars coming through. And so there's that. But there's also really important for the sport, I think, being in our positions and being a promoter, that yes, you're running a business, but you've got a lot of responsibility for the health of the sport and for the sport actually to develop and continue, and for people to want to become professional boxers is based on what opportunities there are. So yeah, there's a responsibility aspect, but obviously there's a competitive aspect as well.
And when boxers look for fighters, and I suppose this is sort of like if someone's building a CV, there's a small hall fighter out there, that wants to become part of boxer, that wants to come on a boxer show. What steps would they have to take, and what does boxer look for in fighters that would make you say, I like the look of that person, come to us?
I mean, it's a good question, but there's so many things. There's so many things. Look, we went for the obvious targets with the Olympians, and then we went with the not so obvious as well. So it just depends. I think this Liverpool show this weekend, a lot of local fighters on the stream, a lot of local fighters getting their opportunities. Paddy Lacey and Frankie Stringer and Tal Singh, who's having his debut as a character as well. So by going to the local areas, you start to pick up who the local talent is and where that talent is. And if we like them, we give them the opportunity. We'll always try and leave 3 or 4 spaces on the card for local fighters to get their chance. And from there, they can grow. And I think, it's up to them. I think with boxing, if you're committed and if you're consistent and if you'll fight anyone and if you will put yourself out there, you will get your opportunities. And we need to make sure that fighters are confident they will get their opportunities, and that's why you have to put on the shows. But yeah, it could be anything. I mean, first and foremost, it's talent, and then it's how well you think fans will take to them. But yeah, it's an amazing position to be in because you are able to transform people's lives. You're able to give them the opportunities that they deserve, and you can't do it to everyone, and it can be very, very difficult at times. But you do your best and you try and keep an eye out for who's most deserving and who you think can go all the way.
When it comes to like the tournaments, which you're still doing, which I'm glad you're still doing that because I like the boxer tournaments. You've got one coming up again, haven't you? Yeah. Have you announced what weights are on there? Because I'm sure I looked. Is there anything you can give away?
We are going to do, I think we're looking at light heavy for Leeds, middle of October, and then we're hoping, we're going to Belfast for an all-Irish tournament in December, which would be good fun. So a couple of tournaments this year. As you said, it's something we want to do. Again, it just almost try and find those diamonds in the rough that don't have those opportunities. And we'll continue to do it. And sometimes we do things that aren't always business the obvious thing to do. If we wanted to make as much money as possible, we wouldn't be putting Shields Marshall on an all-women's card at the O2, not on pay-per-view, with a huge amount of other stars in the co-feature like that. If that was what we were trying to do, so hopefully people can see from the decisions that we take and that we make that we care about the sport and we're in it for the long term.
One thing I will ask, the tournaments that you had for the cruiserweights. I spoke to Ellis because he won the tournament, as did Corey Gibbs, and obviously you've got Dylan Chima as well. I am terrible with names. I always have to rack my brain for names. They ended up having, a deal with yourself. What happened with Ellis? Because obviously Ellis has gone to Frank Warren, and when I saw the announcement, I was straight in his DMs and I says, "What the hell is going on?" And we jumped on a live, and he said that it wasn't for obviously to sign a contract. Talk to us a little bit about that and the confusion that I got as well.
So I think all the fighters that have won our tournaments, we've tried to give opportunities to beyond, and most of them, it works out very well. I think the problem with Ellis was we had fights for him there, and we have a lot of cruiserweights, and so there was obvious fights to make. But at the same time, we created an asset that other promoters wanted, and Frank Warren, who has less cruiserweights, was willing to offer him a long-term, secure deal that was best for him financially, less risk, all these things. And so it made sense for him. And to be honest, we were looking for opportunities in terms of, because you have to, it's not just about signing someone, then you've got to find them the right fights. And we've got Lawal Juma coming up for the British, we've got Riakpur, we just had Billim Smith, and they're all looking for world titles. So there was British opportunities that were going to come. I think he would have fought the winner of Juma Lawal for the British. But when there's an offer there, and it's a longer term, and it's this and it's that, you've got to allow a fighter to take the best opportunity. I'm just glad he's come through that experience and it's put him on the map, and now he's got his opportunity, and that's all you can ask with the likes of Dylan Chima. Shakan Pitters, who's here today, was a winner. We have created winners that are now active on the circuit. They might not necessarily always stay with ourselves. Shakan Pitters ended up with Mick Hennessy. There's just better opportunities. We offered Shakan a deal. He got offered a better deal by Mick at the time, and he took it. So we give ourselves options on the fighters, but we don't lock them in. Luckily, there's a lot of competition. It's an amazing time to be a fighter because you've got so many promoters and so many opportunities.
When you talk about competition, then what's it like for you as a promoter? Obviously, I'm not interested in being a promoter myself, but I'm always interested in sort of like the backroom side, because boxing, when I was growing up, we never knew about promoters. We never really knew about that stuff. The belts were there and the fights were there. So all of the, the promotional stuff that went on in the background, you never really knew that much about it. But nowadays, with the power of social media, the fact that, you've got smaller channels like myself targeting the promoters, how do you guys find it? And I know you're not fresh in the game because Boxer came, the Boxer series came before you merged with Sky. But how do you find it then being, I don't know, in the thick of it, in the deep waters, as it were, of the promotional world?
Look, I love it, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But I think it was never my intention to become... We want to have the best promotional company, and we judge that by giving the best opportunities to our fighters, making the best fights, and making our fighters as rich and as famous as possible. That's essentially the job of a promoter, and growing the sport, making sure the sport's well looked after, making sure the sport gives opportunities. Our focus isn't to make me a celebrity or make another promoter a celebrity. I think that's happened, as you said, in the digital age. It's happened with Eddie on a powerful platform like Sky over 10 years. You're going to become very well known off the back of that, especially if that's part of the focus and part of what the goal is of the business. So I think it's horses for courses. Al Heyman, who makes a lot of the biggest fights in the world, we still don't see. So I think Bob Arum does it his way, Frank does it his way. It's interesting. Everyone's got their own style. And it's great to be in and amongst it. But I think what is good at the moment is, there's always a worry when there's too much competition and there's too many broadcasters that fights don't get made. They are being made at the moment. Like, there's a lot of boxing going on and there's a lot of fights being made. And I think that's because there's pressure on promoters now to deliver. And I think that's maybe back in the day there was only one or two, and they could sort of had a lock on the market. Now there's pressure, and everyone feels it, and everyone's doing the best they can.
I really do agree with that because I think competition breeds proactivity in anything that you do because you know, you, like you said, you want to stand out and you want to be the best. We talk about cross promotional work. You had Ben Whittaker last week out in Saudi, working with alongside, you know, DAZN and matchroom fighters as well. How was that experience? I don't even think you were there, were you?
I wasn't there. There was a few of our lads there with Ben. Look, I think it was fine. I think we wanted to get Ben out. When Sky won the rights, we actually helped them win the rights. With the Saudis, and we put that fight on, and we worked with 258, so we had a slot for Ben, and that's all it was, and we got him out. We weren't too involved. We didn't have to be too involved, but the professional outfit, everyone just got on with it, and it was what it was. It wasn't like what we're doing with Frank, where we're putting on a main event. So that's slightly different, but it went well. We've got another matchroom fighter on our card next week, Alicia Baumgartner. So it can happen, and we just try and stay out of getting in unnecessary dramas and ego and all that stuff, and just focus on getting the fights done.
Yeah, I'm happy that, you know, Alicia's fighting and getting the opportunity to fight on an all-female card, a card that is really iconic, you know, especially for, you know, young females watching that and thinking, you know what, I could probably do that. And a lot of male fans as well, because, you know, when I put the conversations that I have, what people are saying, I weren't really keen on this, but these girls can actually fight. It shows that there's now starting to be an incremental change in the way that the world is viewing boxing. And albeit not everyone's for it, but people are starting to change their opinions on female fighting.
Yeah, I know. I think we felt like Shields Marshall was strong enough that it didn't need to be propped up by a heavyweight fight or a middleweight world championship men's fight or whatever it is. It was strong enough, and that's just where we're getting to now. And yeah, we took the opportunity. We think we've got the biggest fight in women's boxing at the moment. We've got Maya Baumgartner, which is a very, very big fight in itself. And so we also have a ridiculously talented stable with Lauren Price and Karis Artingstall and Caroline de Boer and Shannon Ryan and Ebony Jones. So this was a big opportunity for us. It's not virtue signalling. I think it's more positioning the sport. This is a big sport now. Women's boxing can be a big sport, and it may not happen again. It may not happen every week, but it's an opportunity to show this can stand on its own 2 feet and bring in the biggest broadcasters from all around the world, bring in the biggest numbers. And yeah, Shields Marshall is a special fight, and it's a unique situation.
It definitely is. Finally, I want to touch on the Joe Parker, Joe Joyce heavyweight bout. Yeah. I remember we spoke before and you said, you know, we're going to be doing this cross-promotional work, and we saw that happen. Unfortunately, I weren't invited to any of the media days because I can't get accredited by Frank Warren, but whatever. We move. How's that been? Because I'm looking forward to that fight, and I think that fight's not getting enough credit, and I'd say the same thing about Fury versus Hunter as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of those 50-50 heavyweight fights just outside of the fringe world level. As in world title level, there's a lot on the line. There's the interim world title now on the line, and we wouldn't be taking that fight if we weren't very, very confident. Working with Frank, it's fine. You know, look, promoters that have been in there longer than me, they have their ways of working, and they are what they are, and they do what they do, and you've just got to try and do what you can and do your best, and do your best for your client as well. This was a fight that we think we're very confident with, and there's so much on the line for Joseph if he can win this fight. And yeah, it's a big fight, and it's a 50-50 fight, as is Fury Hunter, and there's a lot on the line for that one as well. So it's good to be involved in the heavyweight division, and we want to become Mao. We feel like we've got our stable now. We've got the best future. We think we've got the best stable in British boxing, or getting towards that. And now we want to get involved in the heavyweight division because it is exciting, and right now it's very, very competitive.
We like that, Ben. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to try and grab you tomorrow after the weigh-in, and then we can discuss that card, tomorrow's card, in more detail. But I really appreciate your time. You're always smirking. Look at that, like, cheeky, mischievous smirk. He's gone. Thank you. Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.